The information provided in this show is for informational and educational purposes only. This show is not investment advice, nor is it intended to address the financial needs of any particular viewer. The opinions expressed on this show are not intended to be an endorsement of any particular investment, strategy of service, or any other kind. You must make an independent decision regarding investments or strategies mentioned throughout the show. Before acting on information in the show, you should consider whether it is suitable for your particular situation and strongly consider seeking advice from a financial advisor. Hi, I'm Elisabeth Dawson, and we're here with our show, Ways to Love Your Money. This is something that's really near and dear to my heart because of the work that I've been doing for the past 20 years in the financial advising world. My mission and my passion is really based on how I was introduced into this industry so many years ago. I was a buyer and a manager for Nordstrom for 10 years, had 2 small children, and my son had just been born. And he's now 20. So believe it or not, he'll be 21 this coming February. So I had some things that I had to deal with when my son was first born, and he had some complications, which today you would never know it by meeting him, and he's a wonderful young man. But at the same time, I needed to be more flexible with my career. And some of the things that I needed to be aware of were, where was I going to go? What was I going to do? I had this mega career with a major retailer out there for so many years and for such a long period of time. Well, one of the navigations that I went through was the financial services industry. And at that time, it was with a company called MetLife. And I had a wonderful opportunity to be mentored by, basically, it was the #1 advisor in the country at that time. So I was given a big gift right from the beginning of this opportunity of my career. And at the same time, and this is now 20 years ago, probably around this time of year, actually, my father was getting ready to retire, and he was turning 55 that December. So, you know, growing up in a family where Dad worked very hard, my mother was an immigrant from Vienna, Austria, and there were some, you know, pretty much groundwork or rules, if you will, when we were getting started as a family. Well, Mom being from what they called the old country, she, wonderful, wonderful woman. She never wanted to talk about money, because if you talked to her about money, she thought you wanted it from her. You never talked about dying, and ultimately, you never touched her purse. So I know you might be laughing a little bit about that because you might have grown up in a household that was similar to that, but it was a miracle for me to come into this industry and actually make a success out of it. So all those years ago, when my mom was meeting with the financial advisor that I was originally mentored with my father, of course, and my dad is nervous because he's ready to retire. He's young. He's worked for the government and, you know, served time as a military servant. And he did all these things, but it was really the context. If this worked out for me, I literally, and I'm very close to my faith, I had to pray about it. And I said, you know, if this is meant for me, this is going to work for my parents, and ultimately it's going to work for my mom. And if it doesn't, then that's the sign I need, and I literally prayed for that sign. Well, that sign led me to this point where Mom and Dad were going in those meetings, and I couldn't be in the room, even though I was being mentored. I couldn't be in the room because Mom didn't want to talk about money. She didn't want to talk about dying. She didn't even know that that was going to be a factor. And she didn't want to talk about anything leading to anybody taking any money from her purse. So the remarkable miracle that happened after their very first meeting, my mom loved the plan. She loved the financial plan for their retirement, and Dad was on his path to be able to retire. I took that as the sign that this was going to be the career for my future. And I'm so grateful I did, because it's been an incredible, incredible length of longevity for my business and for the people that I've touched in their lives. And truly my ultimate goal and how I want to navigate this show with you all today, and I'm so glad that you're listening, is that I want to be that passion behind you getting your financial information, but I really want to be there to help change your life. We're in the business of changing people's lives for the better, not for the worse, for the better. So many people have concerns about retirement, that they're just not going to have money coming to them. And the majority of people today don't have the amount of savings that they need to have put away. The years ago where people had pensions, and some still do today, but the pension problem is a big crisis out there. So people are living longer. Will these pension plans be able to continue to pay? All these things go through, someone that's getting close to retirement, their mind. But most importantly that I want to actually address here is that I'm on a mission and a passion to help as many people as I possibly can over the rest of my career, which, I have people joke with me, it'll be longer than 20 years, but maybe it won't. I don't know. I have a gal that works for me, Jennifer, and she always tells me that I'm going to be sitting in my chair at my conference room table at 88 years old and probably falling asleep and taking a nap. But I love what I do so much that I wanted to come back and tell everyone about it. And I'm going to introduce to you other people, other professionals, entrepreneurs, basically leaders in their industries through this show. And it's really my mission and my passion to help as many people as I possibly can, because I needed to take a leap of faith at that time. 20 years ago, I was much younger then. I was 28 years old. So now you can all, map out how old I am today. But I had a passion even at that time to start changing people's lives because I wanted it for the better. I don't want it to just be when people are saying the market's going so well, the economy's going so well, and they don't have a redundancy plan. I want you to have a redundancy plan because the number one problem we have in retirement today is income, income, income. Losses will hurt you more than gains will help you, especially in retirement. When you're young, you're told that you can take all the risk that you want, and you'll still be able to recover because you're going to be in the game a lot longer. Well, the one thing I know about people is that money and money conversation is a very vulnerable situation that they're put in. And no one really wants to talk about money because they're afraid that someone's going to tell them that they've done everything wrong. Well, I'm here to tell you that you haven't done anything wrong. The only thing that is going to stand in your way is the procrastination of not taking action, taking massive action to change your future. I'm hoping that with the guests that we're going to have on the show that you're going to see different points of view and how people have created success. Again, leaders in their own businesses, leaders in their own economy, leaders in their own profession, and really take those pieces to heart because everyone's going to have a completely different net worth than another. Everyone's going to have a completely different vision for what they want their future to be. And I'm so looking forward to having these different experiences on the show so that you can actually have a better respect and knowledge for money, because we can make all the money in the world, but if we have nothing left over at the end of the day or at the end of the week or at the end of the month or at the end of the year, and we can't rub two nickels together to make a success for ourselves, then we're doing something wrong. And we need to have respect for money so that money can actually create more wealth, not only for you, but for the people that you love and care so much about. So I'm so pleased that you've tuned into our show today, and I hope that you're going to really enjoy all the different pieces of the segments that we're going to bring. And so I hope that you stay tuned. And one of the first things I want to encourage people to do is this is a passion behind everything that we're doing, and it's a book that I wrote, and it was launched earlier this year, and it's called Wealth by Design, Ways to Love Your Retirement. And that's really the catalyst for why we've actually started the show, Ways to Love Your Money. It's not just to love your money and blow your money. It's about how to respect money, how to grow money, and how to give back, and how to protect your family and accomplish all the goals, dreams, and desires that you have for today and for your future. And really figure out, if something's going wrong, when do you want to do something about it? If something turned out not to be true about any financial decision in your life, when would you want to find out about it? Would you want to find out about it when it's too late, or right now, right here, right now? And there might be certain things that you're doing in your world today that are really detrimental to your future. And I encourage you to buy our book, Wealth by Design. It's available on Amazon, and it's also available through our website, which is Elisabeth with an S, Dawson, DAWSON.com, and it'll link you right to the book. It's going to be available also on audiobook. So for those of you like me that like to listen to books in the car, you'll be able to get your copy of it that way as well. So again, we want you to be a part of this show. We want you to be interactive with this show. We want to hear about what your questions are, what your goals, dreams, and desires, and how you want to give back. Or maybe you even want to be a part of the show in the future. We would love that. So we're going to take a pause right now. We'll be back with our show in just a few moments. So stay tuned to Ways to Love Your Money with me, Elisabeth Dawson. We couldn't be more than happy to have you listen and be a part of this. Welcome back. This is Ways to Love Your Money, and I have a wonderful guest here today, Regan Shallal, and I really want to hear what his story is all about, and I want you to hear about it too. So Regan, with that said, I would love for you to share everybody what your story is, and I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good, good. So tell me a little bit about your humble beginnings, you know, when you kind of started out.
I started out, you know, working really young, at a young age, in my family's store. We had a little convenience store in the backcountry, and I started working there when I was about maybe 7 or 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
So every day, basically after school, I would just work in the store till we closed at 9 o'clock, and all the other kids would be out playing, and my dad was
Making you work.
making us work. So that's how it all started. So
you told me a little bit of a story that when you were driving in the car with your dad, and you drove by something that it really, you had a dream, you had a vision that kind of came to you.
Yeah, the first businesses, the first gas stations, I'm in the fuel business now, as you know, I own a bunch of gas stations, but the first ones I bought when I was maybe 9 or 10 years old, we used to pass by them on our way to Imperial County, and I used to see these sites out in Huckamba, which were my first gas stations, and I'd always say to myself, but I never told anybody, I would buy those one day, because I would see a vision at such a young age. So I'd always keep that to myself, but I always wanted to buy them. And then, you know, eventually one thing led to another, and 20 years later or so, I ended up buying those, which I still own today.
Yes.
And from there, I took it to, you know, this, you know, little empire I've built now of sites in 3 different states. So.
Well, and I want you to elaborate on that a little bit more, but because not everyone in the audience knows exactly what you do, but I know you have Rayco Fuel, and you have several other companies as well.
Yeah.
So I know that that has just built this big vision for you and what you really want to accomplish. And I know you're out there and you're doing more purchases of more gas stations, more businesses.
Yeah.
But you've also partnered with some wonderful people too, and just basically your life experience with it, and really how you've learned how to kind of respect the business and everything that makes you kind of tick with the business.
Yeah, I've partnered up since I started on my own years ago with, you know, many really good people who understood what I was doing, who trusted me into taking it to the next level and let me guide the way. And that's why those people are very successful now too. I didn't start in the fuel business. The first company I started was an internet jukebox company, actually. I had no money. I borrowed money from a friend of mine. His name was Gary Feldman, really nice guy. He's actually a client of yours, and I've known him for 20 years or so. I laid out the plan. He trusted me. He loaned me money to start, and I started it with a business partner back then. And, you know, that business was doing well, and then I started another company within a company, which was actually an ATM company, and eventually the opportunity came up to buy those gas stations I always wanted when I was a kid. So I ended up selling those businesses and buying the first 2 gas stations out in Huckamba, California on my own. And I saw a vision from there of, you know, what people were looking for when they travel, what families wanted. I found a niche of what I can do. So then I started looking for more sites similar to Huckamba, and I started growing from there. And now I'm at a point, you know, I buy really not even to make more money, because I've really made enough. I've done well there. Now I buy, honestly, based on, you know, tax mitigation issues. I try to save where I can by purchasing more. And, you know, the saying of the rich get richer is probably one of the truest sayings out there. Our system is designed for whoever's making money, whoever's paying their taxes. In order for them to save on those taxes, you gotta grow. And you have to tax plan, which is where I came to see you, actually, because I got tired of paying the taxes that I pay. And, you know, it can't obviously eliminate paying taxes, but I could save a lot of money. And as time goes by, it amounts to millions of dollars of savings as time goes by.
Sure.
So that's, you know, what happens as you just start getting bigger and bigger.
Sure.
You know?
Well, and a tax mitigation problem is a problem for everyone. You know,
Yeah.
no, I've never met anyone that likes to pay taxes or more than they have to. But for the most part, it's really about how can you start to put some money away for yourself. You know, I
Yeah,
think that's
absolutely.
key.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big mistake people make.
Mm-hmm.
They don't put money away. They don't. Unfortunately, the general population doesn't understand finance.
Mm-hmm.
A great example is, you know, I know people who they'll have $5,000 in their checking account. They feel secure that they have that. They owe $3,000 of credit cards, and they don't pay the credit card off. They keep the $5,000 in their account because they feel secure. Well, I tell them, I say, listen, I think you should take some advice from me. I think I know what I'm talking about. Pay off your credit card, put $2,000 in your checking account, and then you're not wasting that interest on, you know, that interest expense. It's, you can't write that off.
Well, we talk about that all the time, about financial institutions, banks, and the government taking more than they should from you.
Yeah.
And if you can start to identify those pieces and start to save them for yourself, you're going to be that much more successful.
That's right. And it allows you to compound your worth at a faster rate instead of having money being wasted on things that aren't even a tax write-off. Credit card debt is not a tax write-off. There's a lot of things that aren't a tax write-off where, you know, people should eliminate those.
So would you say you have a strong sense of respect for money and for everything that you've built?
You know, believe it or not, when I was younger, I used to say I don't respect money at all, but actually I respect it very much now because I understand the power of it and what you can do with it. And people, a lot of people love to say, oh, it's not all about money. Oh, you're all about money. No, it's not. Because when you have money, you can do a lot with it and help a lot of others. Just like I brought a lot of other people in the same business that I'm in now. We're all extremely happy. We're all doing very well financially. We hang out. Everybody's happy. You know, so I was able to teach these good people the niche, and now we have grown it bigger and bigger.
So in the beginning, you had a mentor that helped you, and now you're becoming a mentor to help others.
Yeah, I think everybody has a mentor. I mean, I have a good buddy of mine, Rupi, which, you know, I'm talking about. I wanted his lifestyle. And a real, if you're not a money-driven person, don't even watch this show. I'll tell you right now. So if you want financial freedom, money has to be important. Okay, and I saw his lifestyle, and I said at a young age, that's the lifestyle I want. And money gives you freedom. You agree?
Agree.
It gives you freedom to do what you want. You wake up when you want, you go to bed when you want, and you basically do anything you want.
It takes a little while to get to that point.
It takes a little while, but if you have the drive, and if you can see the vision and take advice from people who are successful. A lot of people don't take the advice. You know, they just brush it off. And years pass by, and then they say, God, I wish I would have took that advice. But a lot of people don't.
So what pieces, what gems did you pull from when you were young that basically started to make you the businessman that you are today?
Well, hard work is one. Nothing comes easy. I tried the easy route. That didn't go too well. And so you know, long hours in the beginning, a lot of dedication, and being very calculated on what you spend, what you're doing, what income is coming in, and continue to grow monthly. It was very important to me to calculate to the penny of how much money I was making a month. When I started very small, I was a $9 an hour guy working for somebody. And then when I started my first company, you know, it was very slowly, but every month, more and more money. I would make sure I made more money every month. And eventually, it gets to a point to where no matter how much you're laying out in whatever business you're in or whatever you're doing, the income well outweighs the money going out, and your wealth starts to compile. I believe wealth compiles at every 7 years, your net worth. Is that correct?
Between 7 and 10 years.
7 and 10 years. And that's probably the average.
Something we call an exponential curve. So the exponential curve, it starts out a little bit smaller. You know, you're just starting to accumulate, and then you kind of have this little takeoff phase. You know, the next 10 years, and then basically you're you know, through the roof on the rocket ship.
You are right.
For the last 10.
Making your first million is the hardest. Going from 1 to 5 was a lot easier than going from 0 to 1 million. And then, you know, from 10 million on up, it gets a lot easier. It gets easier the wealthier you become. It really does. You know, it's hard to make $1 million, but then it's super easy to make $5 million after that.
Isn't that something? Because there's a lot of listeners that are probably thinking, how do you do
Yeah,
that?
how do you
do it? And I mean, today it's all about ways to love your money, but it's also ways to love and respect your money and how to grow it.
Yeah.
And so you have big responsibilities too, because you have so many employees.
That's
You have
correct,
multiple
yeah.
different businesses, and you've built an empire. So it's again, you know, at the end of the day, I'm sure it's not that you're putting your head on your pillow at night thinking, oh, I have all this responsibility, but I'm sure you do.
You know, you're always thinking about it,
Sure.
but at the same time, as you grow, you put people in place who take those calls for you. I don't get very many calls, but I have great staff, excellent people who work for me, and only the high-level stuff will make it to me if it's an issue. Other than that, you get good people and you pay them well and treat them well, they'll grow with you.
I couldn't say it better myself.
You know,
having great support, having great advice, as you said before, and I think it's really key. It's to acknowledge that advice when you're given it, and then ultimately how you use it and how you produce it with other things that you're doing that are going to create successes in your life.
Yeah, and it's very important as you do grow, don't be greedy, share. Be good to those people. So what if you make $1 million a year and you pass out 200,000 of it and you get to 800? That's okay because they're going to help you grow faster. And a lot of people don't understand that.
So what are some of the ways that you give back? Do you do anything in your community? Do you do anything
Oh,
with charities? Do you do?
all the time.
Okay.
Actually, it seems like every week, there's some type of donation to some organization. And that's important to do, especially if they're legitimate organizations, because you may not think you need them, but they're there for you when you do need them. You know, whether it's the local planning department or whatever it is, when you need to get things done as part of your business, those people will support you. So it is very important to support events, support certain schools and charity events in your area and stuff. That's very important too. And especially if they're 501c3, if they're write-offs, why not? Why give it to the government? I'd rather give it to an organization that needs it.
So do you feel like you're doing things now as a purpose-driven business, or do you feel that you're doing, you know, you have goals, dreams, and desires for your future? You know, the next 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. You know, I know you have some goals, but can you pinpoint them now because of the ideas that you've had where you're pinpointing to the penny, but at the same time you're pinpointing how you want your future to go? What's your future vision?
You know, my future vision is probably a little different than the majority. And that's because, you know, I'm not married, I don't have kids, so you start thinking, well, what are you going to do with all this money? Who are you going to leave it for? So it's not, you know, yes, I want a certain type of, which I already have, the freedom and all that, but there comes a point where, in my case, I'm not concerned about making more money. I'm happy with what I got. I just need to manage what I got and save where I can on taxes with, you know, people like you. And, but yeah, I mean, that's all I can say about that.
So is it more about quality of life at this point?
Yeah, quality of life
and having the right
is,
people to help you get what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Quality of life is number one. If you don't have that, if you're not happy in your personal life, you're not going to be happy. Okay? So, but money helps you have that quality of life.
Yes.
And for those who are married or have kids, one of the biggest problems I see in marriages is financials, is money related.
Sure.
That's the biggest strain I see on families. I actually wanted to get married at a younger age, and then as I got older, I said, wait a second, no, I need to become very wealthy first, and then I'll worry about getting married, because I didn't want to have the burden of supporting a family and worrying about finances. So, and that's where I am now.
Well, maybe you're in a better place. You never
I'm
know.
in a better place now.
This is going to be broadcast to many different people. You might have some calls. I don't know. But tell me one little quick snippet about a fun fact about you, because these are things that I like to know about people. I know you have some hobbies.
Yeah. You know, one of my dreams was I always wanted to be a pilot, so I became a pilot when I was 20 years old. I started flying fixed-wing airplanes, and about 3 years ago, you know, I bought so many gas stations, and I'm in 3 states now where I bought my own helicopter. Wow. So I now, myself or business partners of mine, when we need to go places, we take the helicopter most of the time, and we can get to our sites a lot faster. I turn 4-hour drives, each way into 55-minute flights. And at the same time, it's a tax write-off. It's a tax savings. So my accountant's been a big, big help on tax mitigation for me and tax planning, along with the things I do with you. And but yeah, I love flying. That's a hobby. I love fast cars. I've always bought really nice, cool cars. So. And I'm one of those guys, kids can approach me. I let them sit in them, and I take them for rides. I don't have any issues with that.
Well, it's nice that you have that humble.
Yeah, it seems like I take more people up in my helicopter for fun than I actually use it for business. Every time there's a birthday, a friend of mine's kids having a birthday, I'm taking them up.
Well, Regan, we're so glad that you came on the show and you're sharing your story. I think it's incredible about entrepreneurs today because they do have such a story. They're in business. They're talking about money. You can work for a company too, but you work for your company, which is great.
Yeah,
which is great. And thank you so much for sharing your story. We're so glad that you've been a part of it today.
Thank you.
And again, thank you so much. We'd love for you to stay tuned for our next segment for Ways to Love Your Money, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Ways to Love Your Money. I have a very special guest here for our next segment, and this is Jonathan Olow. I'm going to let you, he's going to talk to you about what his business is and how his journey with finance has actually made him more successful. So we want to talk a little bit more about ways to love your money, and I want to know how Jonathan loves his money too. So with that said, Jonathan, thank you so much for coming today, and thank you so much for being on the show. I want you to tell us your story about how you basically created your professional organization in real estate and really what that's done for you as an individual and pretty much just what brought you up to this point of your career.
Happy to do that.
Yeah, so thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the name of your company.
Well, it's Jonathan Olow Inc. It's actually the Olow Real Estate Group. We work for a brokerage called Big Block Realty, so we say we're powered by Big Block, which is our broker. Okay. But I've been in real estate for almost 14 years, well, 12 years as an agent, but 20-some years in real estate, buying and selling and flipping in different markets.
So what was your passion that got you into real estate?
The passion that got me into real estate. I think originally it was flipping properties where I actually was hands-on into the property where you built the stairs, the staircases, you did the sheetrocking, you did the mudding, you did all of that, grunt labor work to really, get the house ready. So it gave me a great foundation of what's really involved and how do you work with the trades, because as you get older, your body gets worn down and you don't want to do that work. So, you provide that opportunity and
we kind of say that there's a professional for everything, don't we?
There's a professional for everything, yes, and your body is important to keep healthy and wealthy, and then there's different aspects of where you're going with all that business.
Well, you have a very special way that you work with your clients because you're more of a real estate consultant, not just an agent, not just a broker, but you're a consultant. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I like when I say the word consultant, people kind of shake for a moment, and I kind of explain to them that there is a difference between a real estate agent and a realtor, and people don't know that because people do go to higher levels of education and taking more time for their clients. So as a consultant, I'm really looking at the big picture. Just if they went same way they go to Copia for you for advice, to a doctor, to any other professional. Hopefully they're taking an intake form. I mean, that's a simple term. What is important to you? What's going on in your life? So if I'm working with a buyer or seller, I'm going to know what their end goal is, not just get them to sign a contract and do the deal. So as a consultant, I'm going to ask those thought-provoking questions. We do the same consultation for an $80,000 buyer or a $5 million buyer. It's the same process, and that process works. So.
And can you tell me a little bit more about your process? Because I think the audience would actually like to know about that. Yes, you have a big process, and I think it's actually one more of a money psychology behind it, and it's also about having a leader involved in the transaction versus let's say the prospective buyer or seller getting too involved.
And you're probably leading to that where I become a pilot for somebody. There's the pilot. So people understand what a pilot is. They fly the plane, they get you from point A to point B as smoothly as possible. Yet along the way, there can be what's called turbulence. Things can happen in a transaction. So I like to educate my clients ahead of time of all the things or things that could happen in escrow that could go wrong. Not that I'm a pessimist, but it is letting them know the reality, because a regular real estate agent will just go through the transaction and they'll be reactionary rather than looking down the way. So if I'm representing a buyer and I see some turbulence down the line with the seller, I'm going to make sure that I get that out up front so there's not any expectations or problems that come up later in the escrow. I mean, those could be things from title. It could be things that are in the house. Today I was actually talking to a client. There's a chairlift in the house. So does that stay with the home, or is it going to be removed? And we don't want to get to day 30 and all of a sudden somebody's like, you just took out that chairlift or the chandelier or whatever it's going to be. So things that most buyers and sellers don't think about, but I've been through so many transactions, I'd rather, you know, make sure that those are taken care of ahead of time.
I think your clients really appreciate that, and I think they have over the years. I mean, you've been doing this now 20 years plus probably, but it's really, I think your drive to make sure that the transaction goes as smooth as possible, because many people kind of go through this situation when they're buying a house or selling a house, or whether it's for them to live in or for them to rent or whatever their goals, dreams, and desires are for that property, but then they get nervous.
Correct.
Oh my gosh, if escrow doesn't go through, oh, if this doesn't get qualified, oh, if this doesn't get approved. And I think that there's that natural belief, if you will, that something's going to go wrong, but everything's going to go right if you do it the right way. And I think your process actually does bring that.
Yeah, thank you. And back to the pilot analogy, it's I also will let them know is if you're getting on a plane on Southwest here in San Diego and you're going to Vegas, and the plane happens to go in the leftward direction rather than the right that it usually goes, you're not going to run up to the, you know, the pilots into the cockpit and knock the door down. You know, well, one, you'll be stopped or tased, but you have to trust that your pilot's going to get you there. We'll communicate. We, you know, let you know what's going on. We help you with the negotiations. You're an active part of this transaction, and that's the other thing I let clients know is you're an active part of it. It's not a passive, you know, process. You have to jump through hoops. You have to do homework, and there's just some things that, you know, I've bought and sold property for myself, and I have to realize that again, because I'll go through that process and I think, where do I find the time in the day to get this stuff for my, you know, my lender or for my financial coach, Elisabeth? You know, how am I going to find the time? But you do. You got to prioritize, because that my job is to keep as much money in your pocket as I can, so then you can invest or buy or whatever you're going to do with your
Well, and that's important that you say that, because what we try to do with our clients, and sometimes we've worked with clients together, we want them to look good on paper so that they can actually go and make that big purchase, because buying a home is probably one of the #1 highest costs to them in their situation, in their family life, or in their individual life, however it might be. But you want to make sure that they understand what their money can do, what it can purchase, what can actually acquire for them, but then also not get them over committed.
Correct.
And it's really, we talk a lot about this on the show, about being respectful of your money. And can you maybe elaborate how you would help your clients become respectful of their money when it is in such a big purchase, so that they're not overextended? And then in addition, how you have learned how to respect money in your world.
So I really try to make sure that the person is comfortable. And anything that we do in our life, there is going to be a little bit of a risk. So that's something that we'll talk about as well. What is your risk level? If you know you're going to be in that property only for 5 years, then the lender that we're working with, we're going to say, here's a portfolio of options for you. Because if we know you're going to be in that property 7 to 9 years, or whatever the amount of time it's going to be, we're going to make sure that we work with all the parties, making sure that you feel comfortable. And again, there is a risk factor in anything that we do. So, you know, if we're keeping as much money in your pocket, or if you know you're going to be doing a remodel, maybe you don't need to do a 30-year loan. So we'll keep you from spending money, you know, doing 2 or 3 loans in 3 years. We can say, just do 1 loan, or here's what we can do to save you money. So we're not just getting the deal done. We're looking at what do you need. And if your plans change along the way, we're always in correspondence, because I do keep in touch with my clients even after the sale. You know, they become part of the family.
That's great.
So.
And I know that goes also back to your process, which is, again, so unique. You being the pilot and piloting the whole process to get them through and to their destination safely and on time and without any kind of problems along the way. You know, so it's all about redundancy, right? You know, having all those causes and effects working for you. Now, as far as financial concerns and things like this for you in your world, what has been your biggest concerns? Is it about having enough liquid money? Is it about tax mitigation? Is it about being able to accumulate more real estate or even do other investments? Now, what kind of things have really, you know, sparked you?
Right now, for me, it's kind of a combination of everything. I have sold a couple of my properties recently, and I have my friends in real estate saying, "Oh, you're crazy, you should keep it." But again, as I'm talking with my clients to find out what is important to you, having these properties not in my life so I can concentrate on my clients right now for the next 5 to 10 years was important to me, because these other things were sitting on the side, and it was also a time for me. The market's great. So, you know, and again, people will say, well, why did you sell now? Why don't you wait to the height of the market? Well, the height is when it's important to me. So, you know, if you're taking all that information from this chatter from the side, they don't know what's inside of here. So it's the same way I do with my clients. I find out what's in here, not 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I find out what is really important to them. So for me, at this time of my life is, accumulating wealth, looking at, you know, retiring. I would like to do that in 5 to 10 years. But
well, if you say it, you got a plan for it, right?
Correct.
So those are always conversations that we love to have too. But I think in your situation too, it's about finding what makes you feel good, what your personal choice is for when it's the right timing for you to buy or sell real estate, and when to kind of be out of the game. I mean, people will say, gosh, it's the height of the market, should I be in the game? Well, maybe you can with some, but maybe not all. But it is about quality of life too.
Correct.
So what are your items to say that would be a call to action for people to get more educated about their finances? What would you suggest that they do so that they can actually look better on paper for a purchase, or better on paper if they wanted to sell?
Well, I definitely would say is find an educated financial coach. Elisabeth has helped me for 12, 13 years, but that is the most important thing, is to find out what you don't know. Because I think most people come in and they go, well, I don't know what I can afford. Well, I can't
got to get it all mapped out, right?
Help you. So we create that map together, and there's times I've come in with clients of mine, or you have clients, and we sit down together to say, what's important, show me what you can do, because some clients might be 2 years away, so we may say, okay, great, let's help put you on that path, and it's 2 or 3 years away. Every month, I'll send an email, how's it going? Oh, my car broke down and I have to throw in another $1,000. Okay, let's get back on track to do those things. So I think,
and I think we understand this too, both of us, and other people I've talked to as well, about procrastination. Most people are real big procrastinators about basically taking action for what's really important to them in their finances today. So what I always like to end with is a fun fact. Do you want to give me a fun fact about you? What kind of makes Jonathan tick, and some of the, I guess, the experiences? I know that you're one of 9 children, which is a big family, and mom and dad are still doing great, and they look fabulous. But you know, I know that there's more things that make Jonathan tick too. So whatever you'd like to share, don't feel pressure.
I love to travel. Don't do as much as I can, but a fun fact is about 5, 6 years ago, I think, I left for Florence, Italy, because I had the opportunity, and you knew me at that time, and my colleague friends were going, you're going to kill your business, you're going to kill your business, you're gone. But what I did was I incorporated my daily activities into videos that I send out to my clients, and it really was great, because they're like, oh my God, I'm living vicariously through you. But also when I was there, I was also meeting with people that had real estate for sale, you know, homes that were, you know, from the 12 and 1300s. You know, they were doing remodeling, you know, just things like that. So I made it more of it was a personal thing, but it was also a real estate quest.
That's great.
And that, you know, I was gone for 3 months, came back, boom, back on track, and, you know, and it was perfect. That was, you know, so I love to travel. It's just one thing in our business. It's like when you go on vacation, business starts happening. So I make sure that I plan
it's very
trips
true.
every
It's very
6
true.
weeks or something.
Oh, really?
Is
that right?
No, I don't yet.
Oh, okay.
I do need to start that and put that in my plan. So even if it's a one-day vacation or you're taking off, but we laugh about it because when you walk away from something, it happens, and same way in business. So
now we're hearing that we all need to take more vacations.
Vacations. Plan through Elizabeth.
Yes, plan for your
planning.
vacation to happen in your world. So thank you so much, Jonathan, for being here on the show for this segment. We're so grateful that you shared so much of your wisdom, and you have so many wonderful qualities that you can share with so many people. And it is about a team environment. It is about a team approach to make sure your goals, dreams, and desires even become stronger for your future. So thank you again for being here. We're going to close out this section, and we'll come back with our last segment of the day. And again, if you have any questions, please send them to questions@elizabethwithansdawson.com. And we also want to talk a little bit, and we'll kind of have a little teaser. It's our book here, Wealth by Design. We'll be talking about this at the next segment as we end our show today. Thanks again for listening. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Elisabeth Dawson, and it's our show, Ways to Love Your Money, and we're so glad to be a part of your day today. Thank you for tuning in. We've had some incredible guest speakers today with us today. We had Regan, Shallal, and Jonathan Olow, and it's been just a wonderful opportunity to hear their story and how they created their financial success and what they do about it today. So what are the calls to action for you to actually create your financial success for the future? Well, number one, it's not about procrastinating, it's about taking action. And you need to take action by, number one, you're welcome to get a copy of our book. You can go to our website and get this, ElisabethWithAnsDawson.com. You can also send questions to questions@ElisabethDawson.com, and that's Elizabeth with an S, just to remind you. If you have some questions that you want to call in and immediately get some response, if you're not getting the quick response that you want from just sending an email, you're welcome to give us a call at 619-640-2622. Now, we had great guests, and in the future we're going to have so many more. Each show we want to be able to bring, financial professionals, leaders in their industry to be able to, make an impact in your world. What miracles have happened in their lives to make successes for them, and what miracles in your life are making successes for you. If you don't do anything about it, you're not going to change. So what we want to make sure that you get is your call to action. Number one, get the book. Number two, ask some questions. Take advantage of the fact that you're getting a financial fiduciary advisor that is wanting to talk to you, that's wanting to reach you, that wants to hear your impact, your input, and what you're also taking as action in your life. We don't want to continue to do the same things over and over again and expect different results, and we're hoping that they're going to be positive. Because if something's not working in your life, we want to make sure we correct it, that we change it, and that we make productivity out of those things. So I hope you stay tuned for our next show. It'll be coming up soon. And again, this is ways to love your money and respect your money and to enjoy your money, but also to create the wealth that you have dreamed of over your lifetime, to create that freedom for you, just like Regan was saying. We want to create freedom for you, and in the way that you feel that you can retire, do whatever it is that you want to do, whatever those goals, dreams, and desires are, but that you can talk to us and be open and honest with us. So again, I know we talked a little bit about our website. We have our Facebook page too. Like us on Facebook, and that's Elisabeth with an S, M as in Mary, Dawson. And like us there, follow us, join our Facebook group, and get involved. It's time to take action. Thanks again for listening.